Speaks investigates, where truth leads, silence breaks, and every case gets the voice it deserves. I'm Survivor Speaks, and today's investigation starts right now.
What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? It is your girl Survivor Speaks. And as usual, per usual, I'm struggle streaming. So, this was a last minute scheduled video live or whatever. Had a little time. Wanted to give a little update on this case and the case of Celeste Rivas-Hernandez, our 14-year-old angel who was taken from this earth at the age of 14. So Celeste will forever be 14, right? There is so much going on. This case is getting very, very dark. Very, very dark. But I think this case, they're so close to arrest, I believe. So the last video that I made, I told you guys that they had two suspects, right? That they were talking about. They had the David's day-to-day manager was on the stand for 3 days, right? It ain't looking good for him. Then we have the runaway witness that refused to come to court, and then she's, they are threatening to arrest her. Then we have David's other manager, Josh Marshall, who claimed that he didn't really talk to David like that. Lies, lies, and more lies. What is important to us is that what's up for always, what's up, what's up. What is important to us is justice for Celeste Rivas-Hernandez. It appears to me, and I'm going to just say this, I'm not saying that anything is etched in stone or that we do know anything, but it appears that if the public wasn't paying attention, if she didn't have family, even though, people will say what they're going to say about her family. I'm not going to talk about her mother, her father. We don't have any proof that they were taken. David was giving them money. What's up, Len Ali? Thank you so much for stopping in. We don't have any proof that they were giving this girl's parents any money. We don't have any proof of that. But we do have proof of them knowing that she had a boyfriend named David. She had the tattoo on her finger that said shh on her index finger. And he had a tattoo on his index finger as well. Same tattoo, right? So that's what we do know. We do know that she left with him the last time that she was home. According to her parents, she was going to the movies with her boyfriend, David. Now, the problem is she was 14. David was 18 or 19. And the problem is she had been a runaway ever since she started dealing with D4VD, right? She was either 11 or 12 when he started talking to her. So what is important to note is that why did David need a crisis manager? So the day-to-day manager, the guy that managed his life, he was on the stand in front of the grand jury for 3 days. The prosecutors are not happy with his responses. So there's some tension there. He has the same attorney as the runaway witness that's not coming to court. And they're going to arrest her behind. It is a female. And I believe that this is probably either The 23-year-old woman named Celeste that David that they all of a sudden now she's around. This is your girlfriend. Or there was another girl that she is also an artist. Her name is Hannah. Now, Hannah to me seems like they were trying to put them together because Hannah is also an artist. She is from Japan. It is the aesthetic. It is better for them to put that image out there as they were erasing Celeste's digital print from everywhere in her life, basically from everywhere. She's on the screen and then she's gone. Now you see David where he used to be sitting next to Celeste on live videos, streaming with this girl named Hannah. And they made a song together. And they were making it look like, oh, it's so good and it's so great. And yeah, this is Hannah. But where is Celeste, David? What happened to Celeste? Because the people would like to know. But arrest is closer. It's coming, I believe, sooner than later. I know we keep saying that. But let me bring over here what Steve Fischer, who was the private investigator that was hired by the owner of the house in the Hollywood Hills, right? They tried to intimidate him and shut him up. He has been quiet long enough. And today he said enough is enough. All right. Let's take a look at this before we bring the video over. This is a hot mess. This stuff right here. It's getting dark. It's getting dark. All right, let me all right. So this is SF Investigates. This is Steve Fischer, who was hired by the owners of the home. Oh, I'm trying to click on that and I can't. So he posted 8 hours ago. All right, let's read what he says. Trigger. I mean, he's not gonna trigger warning to everybody in the chat. So he says, although my words have been misquoted by some, what I actually said about certain items found at the Doheny address. Now, see, right there, that's a little different. The address where David's manager, Josh Marshall, rented, it was in his name, but the other manager was living there with him every day. Go figure. Was not on Doheny. Not on Doheny. Doheny, the Doheny address is a rental that David was renting before they rented the mansion. And this address that Steve is talking about here is the address where it's alleged that Celeste was staying. They have they were in a kitchen when they were doing their streaming. They called this the streaming house. So this property, it's an Airbnb, is back on the market for rent. And so you know that the internet sleuths, they're all over the place. They put cases together quicker than anybody else. So in this, and they were able to look at the address, look at the property, and then go to the video where Celeste and David was streaming when he had that red hair. He told her, I media trained you. I media trained you. What are you doing, girl? This is the address. This is not the address of the mansion that after Celeste went missing, David moved into. Okay, so let's go. So he says about certain items found at the Doheny address was that they were items you would expect to find on a farm rather than in a home in the Hollywood Hills. One of those items was a burn cage incinerator. I need y'all to take that in. I need y'all to take, let me scroll down a little bit and show y'all. Hold on. Trying to scroll the wrong page. This is something that you cremate somebody's body and you see it incinerates at up to 1600 degrees. It's called the Dr. Burn cage. Who's ordering that to come to your home? All right, let's go back. Let's read this because this is crazy. So he said one of those items was a burn cage incinerator advertised to burn at 1600 degrees. Human cremations are typically performed at approximately 1400 degrees. An incinerator is not legal to use within city limits and serves no legitimate purpose at a residential property in the Hollywood Hills. Y'all, this is sick. This is sick. I don't care who you are. So he goes on to say, some will argue that this item was intended as a prop for a video. If that were the case, it raises several obvious questions. Why would a 55-pound burn cage be delivered to a private residence instead of directly to a prop designer or production house? Why would it be ordered before departing on an extended world tour? And why was it never used in any video production? It is also important to note that there were additional items present that could be used in conjunction with the burn cage. Remember, I thought it was. I remember I said I thought it was lie because he didn't really come out and say anything. He wanted to give the LAPD a chance to, to come out. But he said that, they tried to shut him up. And they tried to subpoena him to come into court for some type of contempt hearing. He refused to go because what they told him, there was no case number. He said, first of all, it was a handwritten note was delivered to him and he was not going. So he put it up here on X because he wanted everybody to know, the world to know what they're doing. And, he's basically, I'm not going in front of nobody about no contempt hearing. Because there's no case number on this. Who sent this? I don't know. The public needs to know. Now this was just 8 hours ago he posted this. So he had said that he was going to post this, start posting things before. And he was kind of trying to respect them. But they have come out with all types of narratives against Stephen. I think he's just tired. This is about a 14-year-old girl that was unalived and found in this boy's trunk. So let's go. So he said, we coming up to a good part because wait, there's more. He said, where were we? Okay, so to be very clear, this burn cage was not used. It was not used, right? But he has some other evidence where there's some footage. I believe somebody was supposed to come back and get Celeste out the front, and it's just they didn't do it. So anyway, let's go. So he said, to be very clear, this burn cage was not used. It was still new and in the box. However, given that Celeste Rivas-Hernandez's remains were ultimately found in the Tesla frunk, the presence of an incinerator at the same residence associated with that vehicle necessarily raises questions about intent. The burn cage was not taken during the search warrant. The cops didn't take it. I don't understand. And because it was not used, it appears it's not of importance to any possible criminal investigation. But we think it's important context, even if not criminal. The burn cage and other related items were delivered to the residents under a false name. Child, this is crazy. And people could say, oh, well, maybe David or D4VD, they didn't want, okay, so they have people that take care of all of that stuff. It should have been, he's the successful one. I didn't know who Josh Marshall was or who his day-to-day crisis manager was until they came out and said something. So why couldn't they? Because they managed him. They both managed him, and they both own the record label where he signed to, who he signed to. So one of them could have ordered it in their name. This case is just getting hella weird, y'all. It's crazy, but let's go on. He said all the deliveries were accepted at the property. Attached is a photograph of the actual burn cage incinerator as found at the residence, along with an image from Dr. Burns' advertising materials for the product. He says hashtag Celeste Rivas-Hernandez, hashtag D4VD. I want y'all to take a look at this cremation incinerator here. I didn't even know, because people think that you could just set up a body on, light a match, set a body on fire, and it's gonna burn. But it takes more, because you have to have something that when they cremate bodies, it burns over time. Like, it takes a long time. It just doesn't burn up. But look at these visuals and tell, like, who would be thinking like this? Who would be thinking this way? Somebody whose mind is demented, dark, evil. So what's going on with all the sloppy police work? I believe, like he said, because it wasn't used, he believed they didn't take it. And when they get a search warrant, they get a search warrant for specific items. But they could have very well went back to the judge and say, look, there's something interesting there. We need to make amend or add on whatever. They said they took a picture of it. And so Steve, I'm wondering if Steve is going to give us another okay, this is you see this right here? This is it. This is what I was talking about. So this is SF Investigate. So let's go over this. He said, what's done in the dark will come to the light. Tomorrow morning, I have been ordered to appear in Los Angeles County Criminal Court for an order to show cause hearing for contempt. I was not served with the summons to appear in court. He says, I was not given a complaint outlining the alleged contempt to respond to. There is no case number, and I do not appear anywhere on the court's public docket. I was handed a handwritten note from a deputy district public attorney on Friday and told to appear Tuesday morning. A punishment hearing in criminal court that is not even assigned a case number, seemingly because they do not want this to be public information. Love me or hate me, this should concern you. The fact that this is happening in our criminal court system is terrifying. That is why I am going public before the hearing tomorrow, which I will not be attending, so that the public and the press are aware of what is happening. Here is the backstory. Recently, I testified on two separate days as a witness before a grand jury. When I was served with the subpoena for the first day of testimony, two detectives came to my door at 6 a.m. and instructed me to immediately call the deputy district attorney. She told me that because I was now a grand jury witness, I was no longer allowed to speak about this case, and that it would be illegal if I did. That's not true. So he said, this put me in an impossible position. I have a client directly related to this case. If I cannot speak to my client, I am violating my professional duty. This was the entire point of calling me as a grand jury witness. It was a strategy used to try to silence me. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has publicly spoken about a similar silencing strategy being attempted against their office. Then I did my research on the law, spoke to lawyers, and found out I was being lied to. Child, what is going on here? So he said, here is the critical fact. In California, witnesses to a grand jury do not have a general obligation of secrecy. That obligation applies to the jurors and officers of the court. A witness is only bound to secrecy regarding anything they learn solely from the grand jury proceedings. So it does not apply to anything they already knew before testifying or anything learned outside the grand jury. I want to pause here because many people are going to search online, and Google AI is likely going to give them the wrong answer by claiming that witnesses must remain completely silent. If you click through to the actual sources it cites, you will see that the AI summary is incorrect. California law is silent on imposing total secrecy on witnesses. Instead, witnesses are routinely admonished that they may not disclose certain things, but those certain things only include what was learned from the grand jury proceeding itself, not independent knowledge or publicly known facts. In 1983, the California Attorney General issued a written opinion on this exact issue for legal clarification. It is very clear. I have attached screenshots of that opinion. I also want to be very clear about this. I never disclosed my testimony. Even though the law would have allowed me to discuss my own testimony, I never publicly disclosed that I was a witness before the grand jury, not once and not twice. Instead, the deputy district attorney abused the power of the grand jury process in an apparent attempt to silence me. I was told that I broke the law, and I was given a handwritten note telling me to appear in criminal court for what? For a contempt hearing. A handwritten daggone note. There is no summons. There is no case number. The matter does not appear on the public docket. There is no documentation outlining what I am accused of so that I can respond. I was also told that if I left town, I had to be back by Tuesday morning. Well, get on up out of here. So I wrote a detailed letter to both the judge and the deputy district attorney explaining my position. I've had that letter since Friday afternoon. I received no response. With the hearing just hours away and the threat of a contempt charge hanging over my head and what appears to be a secret off-the-books court proceeding, I had no choice but to go public so that the people and the press are aware of what is happening. This is the only way I can protect myself from what I believe to be an abuse of power. Go ahead, Steve. It is frightening that this is happening at the highest levels of our court system. There is power in transparency. I was left no choice. So this is the daggone note. Look, this is the note they brought them talking about you got to be in court on Tuesday for. Oh, Steve. Oh, yeah. He said he talked to lawyers already. Like he did his research. He spoke to the law. Well, who going to court with that? I don't know who left that bull crappy. I'm not going to court with no or somebody left a December 9th, 2025, 8:30 a.m. Department 123 on the 13th floor. Judge Olivia Rosales. Who the heck did this? So yeah, so Steve said, heck no, I ain't going. I'm not going. I'm just going to go ahead and let the public know that y'all trying to silence me. I will not be silenced. This is not going to be tolerated. And not only that, I'm going to let the public know more about this case because I can talk about what I learned and not from what I heard from the grand jury. He's a private eye, so he did, some investigation. And they had tried to. I heard that they were saying that he was reaching out to them, like David's friends or people that he saw on TikTok that was saying that they were in David's Discord, and he was telling them that he wanted to talk to them and sign NDAs. They have been doing all sorts of weird things, and Steve just like, I'm not having it. So we're gonna take a look at law and crime sidebar with Jesse Weber. He did provide an update. And that's included, but he has somebody that is that he brought on It wasn't even a sticky note. It was just a piece of paper for always. Like, what are y'all talking about? Oh my goodness. I said this is crazy. So I mean stop sharing. I'm gonna just hit share instead. So this video is being used under the fair use the copyright doctrine of 1976 for educational purposes. Law and crime, I've already added YouTube my description, and the video link is in the description as well. So let me let's just get this. I'll be so glad when they arrest his little funky. Look at the booger in his nose, y'all. Can y'all see? Y'all can't see it. He got a whole booger in his nose. I can't stand him. This is a shame. And look at the star on his head, his fingernails painted and stuff like that. He's weird. And I can't stand him. But anyway, let's go. Let's listen to what Jesse Weber has to say here on Law and Crime.
That we got to talk about. And it may give us some sort of insight into what happened to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas-Hernandez, who, as you know, her body was found in a Tesla that was allegedly registered to singer David back in September out in LA. There have been no arrests. There have been no charges filed. There has been reporting, particularly from TMZ, that possibly an investigative grand jury out in LA may be hearing evidence. We did previous sidebars on that. You can check it all out. But one underlying question that we don't have the answer to, and from a forensic point of view, perhaps is a complicating factor, is what happened to Celeste? How did she die? What was the true state of her body? How was she moved? Which is why the update that I'm about to get into is so interesting. You want to talk about complicating? You know what else is complicating? The fact that the cause and manner of death hasn't been released, and that the details from the medical examiner's office have been sealed by court order. You know, according to a release from the medical examiner's office, it said at 10:54 a.m. on Friday, November 21st, the County of Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner received a court order initiated by the Los Angeles Police Department to place a security hold on medical examiner case number 2025-14252 Celeste Rivas-Hernandez. No records or details associated with the case, including the cause and manner of death and medical examiner report, can be released or posted on the website until further notice. And then you had the Robbery Homicide Division that released a statement not only addressing this, but also addressing the media reporting that Celeste was decapitated and that her body was either entirely or partially frozen. Now, this is based primarily on reporting from TMZ. They had a statement that said, Robbery Homicide Division statement on Celeste Rivas investigation, Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department is aware of the recent stories posted by various media outlets about the David Celeste Rivas investigation and would like to dispel some misinformation contained in their reporting. The body of Celeste Rivas was not frozen when it was discovered on September 8th, 2025. She had not been decapitated. As far as the court order, the LAPD sought to seal the records of the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's investigation into Celeste Rivas' death. That order was sought only to ensure detectives from Robbery Homicide Division learned of important information surrounding her death before the media and the public. The order was not sought to undermine transparency. Okay, now we got to talk about this update. And
I just want to say, so right there, information is being leaked about the case, right? Of course, it's under investigation. So information is being leaked about the case, right? It does not necessarily mean that the information is being leaked by the medical examiner's office. You have people that are taking copies, photocopies of things. They have over 100 and something detectives in the medical examiner's office that they work with on a daily basis. There's multiple doctors investigate. They don't know who is leaking information to who. And so, TMZ always just says our sources at the LAPD office or at the medical examination. It could be a clerk. They don't know who. They can't prove who is giving out this information. However, I get that. And from what I got, I was looking at something the other day. I kind of agree with it. because they're not ready to make an arrest. So I kind of agree with it. We got the runaway witness that won't show up, that they're gonna get ready. Y'all see her, snatch her up, bring her in. I kind of agree with it because it kind of keeps David off balance, right? I don't know if it's true or not. I saw something. I hate people that report false information, but I did see something that said that David and his friends had left the country. And I forgot where they say he's supposed to be at. Now, the fool did say he was going to go live off the grid, but he still wasn't going to go. He had 2 or 3 more years or something like that. He was going to go live off the grid, right? Had Celeste still been here at that time, she would have been 18. Child. I want to find that interview where David says, because I heard it come from I can't stand him, where he said, he answers a question. They ask him a question, he answers it, and then he says, the person that I'm talking about, they're no longer here. I said, if somebody don't get this little arrogant, he's a mess. Little Celeste, the girl who has my name tattooed on her chest. That's what I want to know. Did Celeste have a tattoo on her chest that said David? Because I know she had David tattooed on her finger. But I want to know, did Celeste have a tattoo on her chest? He smell her just like cigarettes. David, sit your dumb ass down. I'm sorry, y'all kissed.
This update concerns Steve Fischer. We've had him on the program before. Steve is the private investigator who is hired by the owner of the property where David had reportedly been staying in the Hollywood Hills. That property was apparently near the Tesla. That property, by the way, was searched by authorities. Now, Steve has come out and made some comments about his investigation, including things like this.
But I will say this, there are some things that, and I'm talking physical evidence, that was at that house that is, there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her, and it's scary, sadistic stuff, and that's why we're trying to learn more about that. I wish I could say more, but for obvious reasons I can't. But it doesn't have to do with how she died, but maybe how they were planning on ultimately getting rid of her, and how maybe that Tesla was just a holding spot of time, and things just, their timing was just off as far as getting this done. But there's a few things that were just like, will blow your mind.
And he was recently discussed on another episode of Sidebar, where he made a post on X seemingly fighting back about potentially being held in contempt of court for allegedly talking about or discussing a case that he had seemingly testified about. He really fought back against that allegation as well. And we assume this was about the Celeste Rivas-Hernandez case. Not definitively confirmed, but when you read between the lines of his message, it seemed to be that. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But now, given what he has said about his findings, this is what we need to talk about. He just posted this on X. Quote, "Although my words have been misquoted by some, what I actually said about certain items found at the Doheny address was that they were, quote, items you would expect to find on a farm rather than in a home in the Hollywood Hills. One of those items was a burn cage incinerator, advertised to burn at 1,600 degrees. Human cremations are typically performed at approximately 1,400 degrees. An incinerator is not legal to use within city limits and serves no legitimate purpose at a residential property in the Hollywood Hills. Some will argue that this item was intended as a prop for a video. If that were the case, it raises several obvious questions. Why would a 55-pound bird cage be delivered to a private residence instead of directly to a prop designer or production house? Why would it be ordered before departing on an extended world tour? And why was it never used in any video production? It's also important to note that there were additional items present that could be used in conjunction with the burn cage. To be very clear, this burn cage was not used. It was still new and in the box. However, Given that Celeste Rivas-Hernandez's remains were ultimately found in the Tesla trunk, the presence of an incinerator at the same residence associated with that vehicle necessarily raises questions about intent. The burn cage was not taken during the search warrant, and because it was not used, it appears it's not of importance to any possible criminal investigation. But we think it's important context, even if not criminal. The burn cage and other related items were delivered to the residence under a false name, although the deliveries were accepted at the property. Attached is a photograph of the actual burn cage incinerator as found at the residence, along with an image from Dr. Burns' advertising materials for the product. Hashtag Celeste Rivas-Hernandez, hashtag David. And he does include those photos, by the way. What do we make of this? Let me bring on Matt Irvine to talk about this, retired detective, law enforcement instructor. Matt, so good to have you here. Quite the statement from Steve Fischer, making it public. Your thoughts if this is true?
Well, I think Steve Fischer's remarks are very well considered. I cannot think of a legitimate, innocent reason why a burn cage would be received at a private residence, why it would be ordered under a false name. I also, frankly,
let's
can't
actually just start
understand.
there. Keep your thought. Okay. The only thing I would say is about a false name, if he's a celebrity, he doesn't want people knowing that he's staying there. Thoughts?
Fair enough, but if he's got a bunch of people that he's working with because he intends to use this as part of a concert tour, as part of a video, he's got a whole staff of people that can order something for him. I don't understand why he would need to do it under assumed.
Hold on, y'all. He was zooted and booted in this picture. Let me go back a little bit. Look. He is what? They say what he own. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he was getting high, honey. He's very, I'm telling y'all, and he's innocent until proven guilty. But I am telling y'all that I have went down the rabbit hole. I have looked at so many interviews of him. This young guy is arrogant. He is into gore. He said at one time he had to force himself to stop watching gore because he was addicted to it. So, those people that, and when he's on video at home, there's always, they were looking to see if anybody knew if there was any type of abuse going on in the home, because it was David. Like I told y'all, he had a crisis manager that was staying there in the house, and there were several girls that were there. They were able to tell where each person in what bedroom where they were staying because of video footage that they got from inside that house. So they don't know whether or not these guys were abusing the girls that were in the house, abuse of power, because his manager, the day-to-day manager, the crisis manager that stayed in the house with them, what is y'all doing? They getting caught in all types of lies, y'all. All types of lies. Josh Marshall, bring it on. Bring it. You rented the place. They getting caught in all types of lies. But it's apparent there was something going on in that house. But I know that Celeste wasn't allowed out when, if they had people come over. She was a minor. David knew she was a minor. They all in that house knew she was a minor. I need them to subpoena the tattoo artist that came to David's party and refused to tattoo Celeste because she was told she was a minor. I need y'all to find, I believe that they said they already, David's, I don't know who David was going with. The other Celeste, I believe he brought her on because Celeste was only 14. So he brought this adult Celeste on. So if people, I think it was a coordinated effort. Myself, I think that they sacrificed this little girl. They didn't expect for the public to find out and be so outraged. They didn't expect that. And her family, her mother and father, they really don't speak good English. at the end of the day. But she did come and go from David home. She would only stay for a little while, but then she left to go to the movies, and then she vanished off the face of the earth. And then you see David in all these upcoming these videos. Now he's streaming with this girl named Hannah. All right.
Tour as part of a video. He's got a whole staff of people that can order something for him. I don't understand why he would need to do it under an assumed name. But your point is well taken. That could be an innocent explanation. But again, to Steve's points, if that is indeed the intent for this item, why is it delivered to a private residence? Why is it not with him on tour? Why is it not taken to some location to be used for some kind of a video? That said, I also can't think of a good reason why LAPD didn't seize this item. I mean, if you're conducting an investigation into a body found in the trunk of a car, one of your working theories has got to be that this body was placed there in order to move it from the scene where the death occurred and then transport it to some third location to conceal it or dispose of it. And if you're looking at the possibility that somebody is trying to dispose of a body, and you search the residence of a person of interest in that case, and you find what is essentially a home crematorium, why don't you take that? I know that when you're serving a search warrant, you can only seize the things that the court authorized you to seize and that you told the court you expected to find there. I'm sure nobody expected to find this item there. But what you do in a search warrant when you find something evidentiary that was unexpected is you write what's called a piggyback warrant. It's a simple addendum where you say, hey, judge, while serving that search warrant that you issued, we found this other thing. We think it's evidence. We'd like to seize that too. It's a typical one-page addendum that's tacked onto your warrant. I've never seen a judge not sign one of those, and I don't know why that wasn't done in this case.
So let me ask you this, Matt. You could be 100% right. First of all, assuming this is true, that a burn cage was delivered there, and assuming for a moment that law enforcement didn't seize it, okay, let's say that's accurate. I guess the question would be either, like you said, it was beyond the realm, it was beyond the scope of a search warrant. Maybe they didn't amend it for whatever reason. Or is it possible, when we're trying to think about what happened to Celeste, her body showed absolutely no sign of burning whatsoever, and they couldn't definitively establish that the purchase, the delivery of this incinerator was related to her in any way?
Well, that's a fair statement. I mean, and as Steve Fischer mentioned, it was unused, but it seems like because of the circumstances that this body was found in the trunk of the car, that the crime of disposal of the body was incomplete. That there was a plan, or at least the beginnings of a plan, to conceal or dispose of the body, and for one reason or another, that plan was not fully executed. And that doesn't make the burn cage any less evidentiary. Again, a search warrant doesn't have to reach the level of probable cause to arrest. You just have to argue that you're investigating a crime and that this item is potentially evidence of that crime. So it's a much lower standard than what you would need to arrest somebody, and I think that standard is well met just by the circumstances of the discovery of Celeste's body.
If somebody had used that, could it thoroughly incinerate a body and there'd be no human composition left? There'd be no human remains left?
I'm not familiar with that product. I trust Steve Fischer when he says that an incineration of a human body, a cremation, takes place at 1400 degrees. If this thing could go to 1600, I don't know what its capacity is at 55 pounds. I can't imagine it's that large. But that again brings us back to this allegation of dismemberment or potential dismemberment if you're going to dispose of a body in that way. It's a pretty awful thing to consider, but it looks like somebody may have been considering this.
Well, that's an interesting part, because when we first started on this case, there was a question: why was the body left in a Tesla? Either it was, somebody was in the middle of trying to figure out what to do next with the body, they panicked, or it was deliberately left there to cast suspicion on David, right? We thought that could have been a possibility. But if the body's left in the car, and now you're thinking about the purchase of this incinerator, that is like really, really, really sloppy work. I mean, you're purchasing an item to be delivered for potentially the disposal of a body. I mean, that's the allegation, or one of the allegations, we don't know for sure. But if we're taking that as true, that is like really bad planning on a number of different levels.
Well, I would expect that however Celeste died was not something that was very well planned or thought through, and I would expect that if you've got a bunch of people who don't have significant sophisticated criminal histories and they're confronted with a dead body under whatever circumstance, panic would be a pretty likely reaction. And, despite all the stuff we see in TV and movies, most people that commit crimes aren't terribly sophisticated. These are not, Ocean's 11 type, master criminal kinds of enterprises. These are people that get in situations where they are way over their head. Things happen that they did not intend, and they get out of control and they panic. And a lot of the kind of circumstances of this case seem to suggest that.
And if it is true that that burn cage was not used, that it was left in the packaging, if someone had purchased that for the purpose, let's say, of disposing of Celeste's body, it gives you kind of an insight to someone's mentality and what they're capable of doing, which also makes me wonder, was this the first attempt to dispose of her body? If someone would be willing to incinerate her body, and we don't have definitive evidence of that, I mean, we're just taking this report from Steve Fischer for a minute, we're assuming it, does it not give you indication about what the state of Celeste's body may have been like? And again, what's complicated is we don't know the cause and manner of death. We don't know more details, particularly about her body. But am I off to say, if someone has the will to do that, would this have been their first attempt to dispose of a body? Does it give you an indication of what else may have happened to Celeste's body?
Well, you raise a couple of questions. Everything about the circumstances of the discovery of poor Celeste's body suggests something that was not terribly well planned and an act that was not complete. In terms of the burn cage, it's hard to know when in the course of all of this item was purchased. Was this the first plan to dispose of her body, and for some reason, a plan B was hatched that involved putting it in the trunk of the car? Was there somebody that was supposed to remove the body from the trunk and place it in the burn cage, and for one reason or another either failed to do that or decided not to do that? I mean, there's a lot we can speculate about here. I think the big takeaway is that one or more people, probably inexperienced in criminal activity, panicked and hatched one or more schemes, none of which ultimately were taken to their completion.
Mm-hmm. But what is complicating, I mentioned before, is you have this seal on the medical examiner records. In your experience, I don't know if you and I had an opportunity to talk about this whatever's going on between the ME's office and the LAPD is interesting, to say the least.
It is interesting and it is unusual. The LA Coroner's Office works with 40 plus agencies in the greater LA County area, but it worked very, very closely with LAPD and particularly with robbery homicide. And, defense attorneys often complain that homicide detectives and the coroner work too closely together. I've attended autopsies where I'm standing with the medical examiner and we're looking at the evidence and we're talking about what we think may have happened. And when people are acting in good faith, that leads to good information and good investigations, but it's very hand in glove. And that's not true in every jurisdiction, but it's very true in LA. It's particularly true for the truly expert and experienced people in LAPD robbery homicide. So for them to be issuing contradictory statements, or for the LA Coroner's Office to say, we wish we could tell you, but we can't, and then LAPD coming out and saying what's being leaked, possibly from the Coroner's Office, is not true. I have never seen that before. These are people that work very, very closely together on very sensitive cases, and there's usually a lot of trust and a lot of cooperation.
Yeah, and the chief medical examiner released a statement at the time saying the department's mission is to have full transparency with the community by providing information about our cases to empower people to make changes that save lives. Since becoming the department head, I've worked on eradicating the practice of placing security holds on medical examiner cases simply by law enforcement request. The practice of security holds is virtually unheard of in other counties and has not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system. We are dedicated to serving our community with full transparency. However, the law precludes us from doing so while the court order remains in this case. Look, I get the position of LAPD. They don't want to compromise an ongoing investigation. They want to be careful about what information's out there. Two questions I have for you is, one, do you think the medical examiner's office definitively knows the cause and manner of death for Celeste? And B, what is LAPD's greatest concern about information coming out?
So there's a lot about this that is very confusing and unusual to me. First of all, I would say it is very likely the LA Medical Examiner's Office knows as much as they're going to know. It's been more than 3 months since Celeste remains were discovered. I can't imagine a test or a procedure that would not have been performed by now and for which the results would not have returned. So I don't know what they know, but I'm afraid, or I expect, that they know all that they're going to. LAPD's greatest concern, obviously, is about information getting out that could damage the investigation, particularly at this point where nobody's been arrested or charged. That said, it's also strange to me that if their concern is protection of information, and the integrity of their investigation, that there would be, as has been reported, an investigative grand jury being held right now. Because when you bring people into an investigative grand jury and ask them questions, they then exit that questioning and consult with their attorney. And now you've got two people that at least have some insight into what the investigation is about. And if you've got multiple people being brought before a grand jury, there's often going to be a common defense agreement among them where all of the persons who are questioned and all of their attorneys are all talking to each other. So at least among the people who could potentially be charged or called as witnesses in this case, there's a lot of information potentially leaking out just by virtue of the grand jury process.
I've been told that one of the advantages of an investigative grand jury here, other than presenting evidence and issuing subpoenas and gathering more evidence, and by the way, my understanding is this is a grand jury that wouldn't even be able to issue a formal indictment. You would need to bring it to another grand jury. But one of the advantages is you can lock in witnesses' testimony, and for a future case, hit them with it. Say, this is what you testified to in the grand jury. This is what you said. We're locking in your testimony as a future witness in a case, particularly when it's complicated, particularly when it's high profile. And there was reporting from TMZ about who may be appearing at that courthouse, which can complicate it as well. But you tell me what you think the advantage would be.
So the advantage to an investigative grand jury is that they can compel the production of evidence, be it physical evidence, documents, records, or testimony. And that, as you said, can lock people into statements. It may be accompanied by immunity agreements and proffers where people are being cooperated. We've talked before about there possibly being a kind of sliding scale of culpability here where they want to roll less culpable people on the more culpable people. Grand jury is certainly a way to do that. Often, though, in a typical criminal investigation, these locking people into statements and gathering evidence is done by the police. They're interviewing people, they're serving search warrants, and they're getting this information that way. So obviously they can't compel people under oath, but they're usually pretty good at getting people to talk. And so the fact that there is, at least as reported, an investigative grand jury suggests that there is evidence, be it documentary or testimonial, that the DA needs that the police have been unable to obtain.
And by the way, just so we're clear, if there is an issue, if the indictment is ultimately handed down and there's an arrest, are we, the public, a Celeste family, going to know every detail immediately? Are we all going to understand what happened to Celeste if and when that day comes?
It really depends on how the DA's office decides to issue the indictment. An indictment can be a very, very brief document that simply outlines the charges and the persons being charged, or it can be what they sometimes call a speaking indictment, which is more common on the federal side, where they really lay out a lot of the evidence in the indictment document. However, once somebody is indicted, it starts a discovery process where pretty much everything that's known to the prosecution is disclosed to the defense, more often than not, the defense may put stuff out there, at least stuff that they feel is helpful to their client. The DA really isn't going to present evidence that is publicly available until the case actually hits the courtroom, beyond what's listed in the indictment. Excuse me.
Yeah, no. Okay, this is an interesting development. We'll see what comes of it. So far, Steve Fisher's the only one I see that is talking about this incinerator and its possible connection to this case. All right, we'll keep a careful eye on it. Matt Irvine, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, and so there you have it. Steve Fisher out here. Hey, Nessa. Thank you so much for coming. Y'all don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the like button just in case you forget. Yeah, he's a weirdo. Steve Fisher, like I said, he said before, if they didn't, he didn't want to release any information that was going to hurt the case. However, the fact that they're trying to silence him and tell him lies about whoever it was, I'm not sure. Y'all saw I put the handwritten note up here. The fact that they tried to silence him and tell him something was the law that wasn't, that just didn't sit right with Steve. And there are some other things that they have been alleging in regard to Steve Fisher. And so I guess Steve has had it. He said, listen, this not what y'all about to do. I'm going to go on Twitter and put this up there for my own safety, or whatever. So there you have it. I'm just glad that the incinerator wasn't used. But if you look at the Tesla of David's, right? It's tore up. It's tore up because David went on a 2-hour or 3-hour drive up in the mountains or something. They said he stayed there for like 2 to 3 hours. So the female the runaway witness that's not coming to court, we believe that she was in the car with him. And so they're trying to bring her to court. She's saying that she don't want to talk. Listen, girl, you can go ahead. You can either cooperate or you can be a suspect as well. Which one you want? Because they are going to get you to come in this courtroom. They are going to get you to come into this courtroom. The sad thing is, like somebody else said, which I think is true, she's probably thinking, well, what if the same thing happens to me? They would be foolish to do something to her at this point. At this point, his managers know who she is. David knows who she is. I'm pretty sure, they talk about that. So I'm not sure how David's manager is communicating with him, if he is. But I could not believe that man said, and because they were in the hallway, he was talking to his attorney. When you're in hallways, there's an echo. So he's talking to his attorney, but people standing in the hallway can hear. He said he didn't like the way the prosecutor was coming at him, asking him why he did not call the police. He said he just wanted David to go on with the tour. He didn't know he had an obligation to call the police. What? Child, listen. I don't think that he should have been given the immunity deal. Like, this is not going to testifying in front of a grand jury. It's not a trial. Basically, they're testifying in front of a grand jury, and the grand jury will say whether or not they believe that the case has enough evidence to go forward and possibly convict whoever they are going to charge for this crime. That's all that it is. There is no defense cross-examining the witnesses. It's basically the prosecutor asking questions. And, you have your grand jury. So from what they're reporting, that the grand jury is really, really into this. They are really locked. They have really been locked in. And I hope they do. I hope they do, because we don't need another Diddy. We don't need another Diddy trial on our hands. Like, listen, those jurors was fans out in there. So of course they would get somebody else, the grand jury. Like I said, it's just before, but they would have to select a jury if they find that there's enough evidence to bring this case before the court of law. And so justice for Celeste is all that we care about. I don't care about all the rest of that other stuff. Somebody needs to get arrested. It's time. It's been past time. But you know what? I want them to do a thorough job too, so that it can stick. I just don't like, because if he wasn't all over social media the way he was, and if Celeste hadn't been in live streams and in all of those pictures with David where she was in disguise, but you could see that it was her, and so people was talking because he was very inappropriate in the Discord, nobody would know that this girl was unalive if she wasn't found in that frunk. They were already have reported her missing. They were already missing flyers out there. So just imagine. And do you guys believe that they do sacrifices in the music industry? I don't know. Because this is what this sounds like. I don't know. So, David, are you willing to sacrifice like the person that you love so that you can get wealth and fame? I don't know if that stuff is true. I just heard it just like everybody else heard. Heard that TMZ was doing a lot of talking that could tank the case. You know what? I don't think TMZ is doing a lot of talking, but I don't think that what they've put out so far, because Harvey, they're very when they're talking about these cases and stuff, they're reporting I think the bare minimum. I think that attorney Garagos, now he was saying basically his sources say they have the full digital footprint. They know who was driving what, who went where. He said they basically almost got this thing down to a T. And I just hope that this comes sooner than later. This young girl deserves justice. Her life was snuffed out at the age of 14, and they found her the day after she turned 15. But she was, make no mistake about it, when she was unalived, she was 14. So she'll forever be 14. And somebody needs to pay for what was done to this young girl. So I don't want to hear nothing else. It's sad, Nessa. It is crazy that all of this is going on. And so we had an hour. I was going to say something about Krishan, but I'm not. I'm just going to continue to pray for her. I'm hoping that she sticks to the boxing thing and just, let Ryan Garcia take her under his wing. I think that, he would be good for her. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Keep her in prayer. Keep her baby in prayer. That's it. And that's all. Because, people around here making up stuff. I'm going to just post what I'm going to post. And I'm going to let y'all read it and weep. But the lies that y'all spreading is crazy about this girl. She left her baby in the car and with another little boy. No. That's not what happened. She sent her baby to safety, and her best friend was with the baby and her child, to ensure their safety. And she's like, I got it out here. Get my son out of here. People need to stop lying on that girl. Y'all try to. What about? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get off there because I don't want to even get into that. I was just so mad because I don't know. Jaden driving drunk with 2 kids in the car, and how that got anything to do with Krishan? That's what I want to know. But it is not a Krishan stream. I'm just saying, she's young. She's trying. Like, she got the world against her sisters against her, selling information, lying, this, that, and the third. It is just crazy. I don't even know how she's still standing. She's strong. That's all I got to say about that. I just don't understand how we just jump on the other side of with people that talk, that don't even like us. She don't like us. She don't like our kind. So I'm just a little confused. She left the scene of the crime. She needs to be locked up. I'm glad the girl put out that video for people to share. Y'all need to pick her up. She was drunk. She got all the evidence over there. She hit those parked cars. She had 2 kids in the car. Oh, but Krishan, nothing. She has nothing to do with that. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I don't know. It just bothers me so much that they want to see this girl lose so bad. I just don't believe in that. I believe in uplifting people. She'll come around. Pray for her. She's trying. That's all I got to say about that. And all I'm gonna say is she stood 10 toes down there in Compton over there in that land over there. Listen, I don't need those problems, but she stood 10 toes down. 5 girls against 1, because the one that slapped her, you was hiding behind the camera. Now you all over the internet talking about you got 5 kids, 4 in foster care, and 1 your mother got. Priorities all messed up. You're trying to get on Zeus to fight. Y'all, let me get out of here. This is why I don't really do. I'll do celebrity true crime, but I just can't take. I can't take all of that, because like it just it's weird to me. It's weird. I have to look into it. The I Am Zoe video is kind of interesting. Maybe we can do that. I don't know what should happen to Zoe. Zoe, I forgot. I think it's Zoe. Really? I had heard those allegations about him. They kind of swept it under the rug. Are you a predator? Oh, no. I'm gonna leave that alone too. That's another video for another day. Anyway, y'all know it wouldn't be me if I didn't leave y'all with bringing awareness that men get breast cancer too. So because of the stigma surrounding the word breast. Oh, you know what? For always, I wanted to ask you, anybody else in the chat, I don't know if y'all saw it or not. How you like the video? Did you like my intro? I made her. I cloned myself. And I did the intro to the little video. I think it looks just like my picture. I think she's cute. But that's me. So anywho, so we're gonna continue to bring awareness that men get breast cancer too. And to all of my ladies, please make sure you're getting your mammograms, filling on your boobies to make sure you are all right. And don't ever let anyone come into your house and disrespect the peace that passes all understanding. I'm Tavira Speaks. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out if you didn't hit it. And when I hit in, please go and hype the video up so that, it's a free way to support the show so that I can get the video out there into the algorithm. And thank you all for... Oh, thank you for always. That's what I was telling you about. I was working on the other day. Yeah. So, I had to. Yeah, that's gonna be like the intro, because I probably do video, some videos, but I'll come live though. I still can still use it. And I got some other things that I'm working on. Probably for that other channel. That's that other channel that's so over there. I just got a lot going on right about now. Life is life, and maybe one day I'll tell y'all about it. But right now, it's listen. So y'all go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, hit the like, follow, turn on all your notifications so you know when I'll go live. If we have any more updates about David. The David case, I'll come back and bring that information We got Nzai Harris coming up in February. And my old sergeant, child, he want to argue with those folks, talk about y'all don't have any evidence. Child, you was charged with 2 counts of red rum and 2 home invasion and robbery, and I'm waiting for that because I think I'm gonna try to see if I can do a FOIA request, and I want to be in the courtroom when it happens. But he's going to court in February too, so I'm gonna keep working on that. It just hits different when you know somebody. I worked with him for 7 years, so it really, really hits different. And like all the officers that I worked with, they like, oh my, I just can't believe it. I could believe it. I could believe it. I could believe it. So it's just a lot for all of us right now. They like, I don't know. I tell they better have somebody sitting outside of Bill's cell, because Bill won't kill it. He's 70 years old. He gonna unalive himself. Child. Anyhow, I'll see y'all later. Thank y'all for rocking out with me in my crazy self. Love y'all. See y'all later.
If you have made it to the end of the video, you are the real MVP. So don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.